everybody. Sorry we're a couple minutes late there. I had to put Frances down for a nap, and I am not 100% convinced that she is sleeping yet, so Morgan may have to take that over in 1 second. But hey everybody, so we have some folks joining us. Alyssa, hello my love. Thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with us. This is day 3 of our quarantine class, Lettering with Ladyfingers special edition. We have gone through the letters A and B, finally.
I'm bouncing up down trying to get Roland to sleep. Sorry if that makes you seasick.
At least we only have one baby with us right now. Gio is watching TV and Frankie might or might not be sleeping. We will find out shortly. But yeah, we are feeling a little bit like this is Groundhog Day at this point. I'm like, didn't I just do this yesterday and the day before? But it's awesome. It's a great way to spend time. Hi, Roscoe.
And Colleen and Bridget.
Oh my gosh. If you guys haven't watched the story, Morgan's, are they your cousins?
I think they're cousins, second cousins,
relatives in Chicago made a hilarious.
Clan.
The O'Brien clan in Chicago made a great video. They also are hilarious on Instagram, and we really enjoy watching them too.
And healthcare workers on the front lines. Way to go.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
We have a couple updates about getting the videos online.
Oh yes, I am working on that. I'm trying to get the classes that we've done from the first 2 days on Instagram, IGTV, but I am still working on it. It's gonna happen. I have a good feeling. I'm in a good place, so just be patient.
You'll be able to take those classes.
Yeah.
It's just, there's only so many hours a day you can be locked in your house trying to figure out how these things work.
Yeah, until a toddler comes in and unplugs your computer.
So we're getting there. We promise we're getting them up. There's a couple of other updates we have. We posted the hand lettering booklet that Arlie wrote, and that has diagrams and how-tos that somewhere Casper has walked away with and we can't find right now.
We have a physical printed booklet that is included in our hand lettering pen kit that you can get on our website. But yesterday people were like, oh, it'd be great to just be able to download the booklet. So we have that now available in our downloads section on our website. So you can just download the booklet itself and print out as many lined paper sheets that you would like.
So take a look for that.
Yep. We also have another fun little download for you guys, a free download. I don't know if you saw our post today, but
check it out.
Oh, I realize you probably can't read that because it's backwards. It says we will always figure it out, and you're probably wondering what's in here if you haven't seen the post, but that is a puzzle that I had made for Morgan last year when we were going through some hard things, and we were like, but you know what? We always, we've been through hard things before. We will always figure things out. And I was like, oh, it's going to be so clever. I'm going to make it into a puzzle. She's going to love me forever. And then she was just like, this is what you got me for my anniversary? What the heck?
That last part's not. I cried uncontrollably. You all. I'm a crier, so I just cried. But it's free. You can save it as your phone wallpaper. Here, look.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you need a reminder every time you look at your phone that you'll figure it out. I mean, no one knows what's going on or how it's going to go. There's so many things. We don't know how we're going to get through. But you know what? Like,
we have each other. Oh, we hang out too much, I think.
But should we get to hand lettering?
Yes, let's do it.
And send your questions. I'm going to do my best until someone screams in this house to read them to Arlie as we go.
All right.
But let me get you.
Okay. Don't get my sweatpants.
Okay.
I don't want them to know I'm wearing sweatpants.
Okay, hold on. I got to flip the phone. Wasn't this the thing yesterday that people said? Let's try to not hang up. Hold on. There we go. Hi, everybody. Okay, there's the screen. Are you going to go through baseline? Oh, shoot. Sorry, everyone. Baseline, all that stuff again, or just like, maybe not today?
Maybe not. Maybe we could just focus on the letter C. If you guys want to go back at all, hopefully all of that stuff will be available on IGTV real soon if you want to catch up. These lessons have been lasting an hour for one letter, and I think it's because And I think it's because I'm trying to cover all of like the like all of the basics per letter. So I would recommend if you have any questions, of course, ask them while we go. But I'm also happy to answer them. But if you do have any more like deeper questions, you can always refer back to other classes, and there may be an answer for you there. But I'm not going to not answer a question.
It's Michaela.
Hi, Michaela. Oh, I wish I could see all your faces right now, but instead you could just see how terribly I'm able to use a computer. All right, so hello, come here, come in. Oh, nope. Let me see if I can figure out how it is. Okay, awesome. And also just real quick, we're doing this with an iPad and a computer just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. But if you're at home, I recommend printing out this free lined paper that we have available at ladyfingersletterpress.com under downloads. So you can print out your own lined paper to practice at home. Don't forget your microns, because these are my favorite. Or you can follow along with me on an iPad using Sidecar to use as a display and suck out all the Photoshop from your computer.
Are you using Photoshop on the iPad? Someone would like to know.
Oh yeah, I am using Photoshop. On the iPad, I also use what's it called? Procreate, which is a really awesome program, very popular, and everybody uses it and loves it. But since I'm using Sidecar, it allows me to basically just like tap into my computer and use whatever program is on my Mac and use it on my iPad. So it's pretty awesome. But without any further ado, I'm going to actually start a fresh new layer here and start with our capital C's. So we're going to go through serif, sans serif, and script alphabets. Can you see that okay? Is that all right?
Yep, that looks good.
Okay.
Someone wants to know, do you like Procreate or Photoshop or Illustrator better? That is a very good and long question to answer.
Well, Procreate is awesome. It has tons and tons of brushes available. I don't even know if I can bring that up on here because
Don't crash it.
Well, I'm like logged. I'm using my iMac right now. Procreate's great. What I didn't like about it is that it has this function that if you drew a letter, hold on a second. I still have those stupid pop-up things. Let's letter P, for example, right? I found that it was like trying to really like soften the shapes of it, and it was kind of forcing it into a really like very bendy sort of globby look. And I guess I wanted more control. And after I spent some more time with the pen tool, I was able to refine my pen and Procreate to have it a little bit more exact of what I like. But Photoshop I've just been using forever. I think I started using Photoshop in like Photoshop 4, I think was my first Photoshop I ever used. So I'm familiar with it. At the studio, I use it with a Cintiq 27QHD Wacom tablet. So I'm used to the settings and stuff using Photoshop. But if you are interested in getting more into hand lettering using the iPad, Procreate is definitely something I would recommend. I don't draw anything in Illustrator freehand. If I do anything vector-based, I draw it in Photoshop first and then drop it into Illustrator. So, and then I convert that to vectors. So I hope that answers your question. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start with our letter C's. So we're going to start with our sans serif. Oh, is Frankie up?
She's up. Okay. I'm going to run upstairs to put Frankie back to sleep again. Hold questions for the moment.
Yeah, sorry, Morgan is...
Thank you, everyone.
Hold, please.
Okay, hold your questions, but you're going to start with your sans serif?
Yep, I'm going to start with the sans serif. Or serif now. I'm going to start with the serif. You want me to start with sans serif?
Yeah, I think it's better, and then you add the feet on.
Okay.
It's like a little bit more like building on it. I think it's good.
All right, we are going to start with sans serif, everybody. So the letter C, we're going to start with the sans serif capital C. We are going to start up here by the cap line. And we're going to draw our shape of our capital C. We're going to try, oh my gosh, you see how wobbly that is? It is very tricky to try to get a perfectly drawn, like, block letter, serif capital letter at all. So what I like to encourage is, you draw your first initial shape. Make sure that this front terminal doesn't go down too far. You don't want to go going down to the X height or the mean line. But you also don't want your terminal down at the bottom to be coming up too high either, because then it would look like a capital G. So you sort of want it to be, a little bit of, almost like there's someone just took a giant pizza slice out of your C. Maybe you got some pepperoni on there, maybe some anchovies, which I've never actually had anchovies on my pizza, but this quarantine is really making me try to experiment with new things. So maybe I'll just have anchovies sometime. So yeah, you want a nice little opening. You don't want it to look too much like a G. You'll see that this kind of extends a little bit further out. That is kind of unintentional. So let me try drawing this C again a little bit better. Again, for you at home, oh, I don't like that. For you at home, feel free to repeat your letter forms, draw a whole bunch of C's, draw a whole row of them, fill up that whole line with letters. The best practice is practice, believe it or not. So I'm going to fill this in. I've noticed that this C is a little bit more condensed, which also kind of means like it's a little bit skinnier than the last one I drew. You'll also know that I kind of extended it a little bit above the cap line and a little bit below the baseline, just by a smidge. You see that? And that's because there's some letters, the A's and O's and C's, G's for that matter too. You just want it to be slightly over that cap line and the mean line, because visually, for some reason, those letters, you just need a little bit of extra space in order for them to look, sort of this optically the same size as some of the other letters. It's a very weird phenomenon, but trust me on that one. Okay, so what I did here with that letter C is, as you can see, I drew that outer shape, filled it in, and what I'm going to do with this filling in period is I'm going to really try to make this C shape as consistent as this stroke, as consistent as possible. This is really chunky and thick over here, which I don't really like, so what I'm going to try to do is just try to thicken it out so that the rest of the C is the same width. When you're drawing a word, of course, and you do different letters, you want to definitely make sure that all of those letters have consistent widths, stroke widths. Using Photoshop is kind of nice because I could just kind of use my, or using a digital tools allow me to use some erasers to get rid of that negative space. Oh, I hate that thing. I keep telling myself turn that off, but I don't. One of those things. So our capital C is something like that. This is what is considered a mono-weight sans serif, which means the distance here is the same as the distance here and the same as the distance here. It's also considered something that has low contrast or no contrast, because contrast is when you have a letter form that has like a very thick stroke, for example, and then you have thin strokes and thick strokes. So this is high contrast and this is low or no contrast. And this is also considered what we called a mono weight. So if you wanted to do something that had a little bit more contrast, something that was a little bit more humanist and had a little bit more of a relationship to the serif letter forms, we could draw a C that looks like this. And again, we're trying to draw that ribbon as the contrast. We're going to kind of twist it, and we're trying to not let that ribbon twist too far into this danger zone here, this vertical danger zone here, because that's our axis. We want our ribbon here is being turned is vertical in this instance, and again, imagine your ribbon is being twisted, and you don't really see this thin part when you're twisting your ribbon over here. So whenever you kind of struggle with the thickness of places, and you will, because it's just inevitable, just imagine that your letter form is made out of like a big ribbon, and your ribbon is twisted here, but it gets bigger here, and then it comes back to being very thin. Let's do a lowercase monoweight C. It's very similar to its uppercase ancestor here, or relative, family member, whatever you want to call them. Just smaller. And then you also want to maintain a very similar stroke. Here we go, this little funny little C. Hey, hello little C, what's up? So cute. I always tell the story about when I realized I wanted to be a hand letterer. I realized it was because I really noticed I wasn't like when I would read things, I couldn't really, I never retained any information, and it's not because of like ADD or anything, it was just because I was looking at all of the letters like they were little characters, right? I mean, I was just like, oh, what a cute little C, it's so cute, it's so tiny, it looks like Colorado, and then I wasn't reading anything because I was just staring at all the characters and like really imagining that they were actual little characters, you know. And yeah, that's why I can't get anything done around here, but just cute little monster C's. And then we're gonna do a lowercase C with, sorry, where did it go? Sorry, monoweight. And we're gonna come down here. Again, I draw our outer shape because we're really drawing the letters as if they were an illustration. We're not trying to focus on the handwriting element to it. I'm going to try to square off these terminals here. But this is sort of an example of something like Futura. And this is something more like Gill Sans. I'm just going to label this sans serif with contrast. Of course, you know, if you ever wanted to, you know, type out the whole alphabet of Futura or Gill Sans and try to redraw them, I think that would be a really cool exercise. Also, it might mean that you're slightly insane, but you know what? We all are a little bit, so that's okay. But it's good practice to kind of see how, like, I say computerized fonts because we pretty much use our computer to make fonts now, but Gill Sans and Futura were designed by hand, you know, back in, let's see, Gill Sans, Eric Gill, when did Eric Gill design Gill Sans? Was that in the 30s? And Futura, oh gosh, I should know who designed Futura. It'll come back to me. But anyway, these were drawn by hand. But yeah, if you want to type out the whole thing on the computer, redraw them, it's good practice. But the beautiful thing about hand lettering is that you're not a computer, and a computer does what a computer does. And let the computers make those perfect fonts. But you're a hand letterer, and you're allowed to make things fun and wonky and weird and turn your C's into giant, crazy. Oh, now Morgan's back, and she's like, "What have you done?" Okay, Morgan's back. You can ask your questions now. Who designed Futura? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, well, I'm sure someone on the internet will tell you. Hold on.
Okay. So I think we have successfully accomplished the uppercase and lowercase sans serif in both.
Oh, oops, sorry guys. Someone said the bar cart showing
The bar cart?
on the edge of the film.
Oh.
Sorry.
How do you know we're using a bar cart?
They didn't say that.
Oh.
They said something's in the picture.
How do you know that we're propping this up on a bar cart and a plant? That's not even, it's a fake plant. It's not even a real plant.
Arlie likes to buy fake plants.
I do like to buy fake plants. Well, I'm really bad at keeping them alive, so.
But now we've definitely been converted by living room plants in Colorado Springs. Everyone should go buy plants from living room plants.
Oh yeah, the living room.
Okay.
That's a great place to get plants.
All right.
Sorry,
bar cart
everybody.
out of the way.
Okay. Futura. Anybody know?
Yeah, it's like typeface trivia. Here.
Typeface trivia. I had to memorize all the typeface designers, what year they were designed, and Frankie's still crying.
I know.
Anyway, we're gonna move on.
Futura, 1927 by Paul Renier. Thank you, Sharon.
Yes. Oh, Sharon, thank you.
Okay, now the card's out of the way. I'm gonna go try to put it
Paul
back.
Renner. Excellent. All right, so let's move on to our serif letter forms. And if you guys have been following, you probably have heard me explain what a serif is. If you're new to this, and welcome, we welcome you. Thank you for joining us. If you don't know what a serif is, serifs are basically those little feet at the end of your letters. Not exactly like that, but kind of. So if this is a sans serif, this is a serif. The little feet at the end of your letter. Kind of looks like a foot. A little ankle. A little three-toed foot. So we're going to draw our capital C, and our serif letter forms are going to be very much derived from this humanist stroke. We can all thank the monks who used, calligraphy pens and sort of initiated our perception of what a letter form is and what it should be. I'm trying to think, wait, were the monks before the Romans? Oh man, I'm really unprepared for this. It's a good thing this class is free. I should have studied before teaching a class. Monks and Romans, maybe they exist at the same time, who knows? All right, so we're gonna draw our capital C. We're gonna start again in a very similar place. I'm gonna keep that one just for the heck of it. And I'm gonna draw my serif up at the top there. And I'm gonna come around and I'm gonna create that thick stroke. We had a question the other day about the angle of our serif. I like to keep my angles pretty consistent, but there are some letters where I just feel like I really want to make a very severe angle. And C's are one of those letters where I just want like a really pointy, punchy, like bludgeony serif at the end. Don't ask me why. I'm not angry. I don't have anger issues. It's fine. You don't have to be worried. But I just really love a really pointy capital C. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Look at that serif. Makes you want to just... It's almost like a tooth. Maybe that's why I like it. It's like a little cat tooth. So, yep, our capital C's, again, we're going to sort of extend a little bit beyond the cap line, a little bit below the baseline there, just slightly. We are not going to add any serifs here, because then that looks like a G, right? Right. And Morgan is away, again, trying to get one of the twins down for a nap, so if you have any questions, we'll let you know when she comes back. But again, remember that ribbon, that's twisting. You don't really, you want it to kind of come over here, but then this is getting towards, axis danger point, and you don't want your ribbon to cross over your axis point. What keeps happening there? You can also, if you want to be creative, you can really make a very cool what do you call it, italic C. It's not script, it's not cursive, it's italic, which is basically your axis has changed. It's an italic is derivative of the Roman type family. It is not it's not script, it's not cursive, it's not like a hand, what do you call it, handwriting font. It is very much just a Roman family style that is just a little bit lazier than the Roman style, and has a tilted axis. And if you want to do an italic version of the of your serif letters, you just want to make sure that axis stays consistent. And yesterday I mentioned that maybe I would upload some line guides with this consistent axis. I did not do that, but maybe I will try doing that today after this class. So stay tuned to hear an announcement about when those are up and ready to be downloaded. All right, let's move on to our little baby lowercase c. I like to make my lowercase c's with a little bit of a teardrop terminal. Let me make that a little bit bigger. You want to make sure that your, you want to make sure that your counter space in here, that negative space, that it helps to define the shape still. You know, that your positive space and your negative space almost work hand in hand in defining the legibility of your letter form. So you really want to make sure that you're using it to its full capacity, and not making your lowercase c's look like a lowercase e or an o. You don't want it to be too clunky here, because that could definitely look like a e, lowercase e. You can also make a lowercase c with a little serif in there if you'd like, but I just like adding a little teardrop terminal. It just kind of makes it a little bit more friendly. And terminals, again, are the ends of your stroke. This is a terminal, this is a terminal, and you would never really do a teardrop terminal on the bottom, right? Because then you're closing in on your negative space and making it look a little bit more like an E. Or like it almost looks like a colon with a like headphones or something. I don't know. What the heck is this? Let's look. Does that look like like a pig nose? I don't know. It looks like something else to me. It does not look like a lowercase c. So whatever you do, don't do that. But you can do this, and you can do this. And even if you're drawing a serif C, you can even omit the serif altogether for legibility. So that's fine too. Okay, so where are we? We have done uppercase, lowercase, sans serif, we've done serif, monoweight, sans serif. Now we are going to get into script uppercase C's, which are so much fun. They're one of my favorite letters to draw in the script alphabet because they are one of these letters that kind of you can use to dictate like a really fun baseline for the rest of your word. So for an example, you could draw a capital C like this, kind of loopy, kind of free and easy. And you fill your little ribbon like this. Don't worry, I'll spend more time on this in a second, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys an example of how we can use this to dictate a baseline. So if you want to pull this terminal out, and like I mentioned the other day, like anytime you have a terminal, like a beginning or an end, in the script alphabet, you could really, really use that to draw it out, make it more ornamental, do some flourishes with it. It's pretty unlimited as to what you can do with terminals in a script alphabet. But let me show you something I like to do with my capital C's. So if I were to do like a really nice, let's say I had the word, oh, someone's at the door. I'm just gonna, maybe that's just the mail. Ju, you gonna get that? Who's at the door, hon?
Someone's at the front door.
Who? Do you recognize the person? Do you recognize them? Okay, then don't open it. We have the Nest doorbell. They'll figure it out. Thank you, Gio. Okay, so back to our lesson here. Sorry about that. Was that just the mail, hon? Sorry. Anyway, we're like, who is out at this hour? Knocking on doorbells. Ringing doorbells, I mean. Don't they know what's going on in the world? All right, C. So you see how I made this nice baseline? Now this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the word. You know, your baseline is usually this little flat line here, but because you're using a script alphabet, you're really welcome to do very undulating, beautiful, whimsical baselines to your heart's content. So let's do the word cats. So we're going to draw a T and our S. What was that, hon?
Just a delivery.
Okay. You go back and you fill, oh, I'm being very sloppy because I'm kind of looking up at Morgan at the same time. All right, you see how that's nice? Like a little, like you sort of gave yourself a little angle there to follow. You know, but at this point, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm trying to make sure that like these points here and here and here and here are kind of the same distance relatively, but that's not necessarily a rule. It's just something that I noticed that helps me make my words a little bit more legible. But I also really adore, you know, those like really jumpy bass lines, kind of looking something like that. So if that's your deal too, go for that. Hey, hon. Morgan? I think Frankie's still crying. Okay, so capital C's. Yeah, so you can draw them with a loop on the top and a loop on the bottom. Let's try to draw a couple of capital C's. You can do it like that. You know, try drawing that initial shape first. And you see how you can just kind of get very creative and loose with your terminals there. You can kind of go back and fill in those ribbons, strokes, stems, whatever you want to call them. Morgan? Hey, Morgan?
Yeah?
Frankie's still crying.
Yeah, I'm gonna get her in a minute.
Okay, sorry.
No need to apologize.
All right, and then, yeah, so capital C's, you can do them kind of like that. You can even, you know, you don't have to do this loopy loop thing here. You can just kind of loop it around like that. But you don't want it to look too much like A, E, so you just want to make sure that things are still legible at the end of the day. To do a...
Whoever that sweet person is who sent coffee yesterday,
Oh,
4 bags arrived
oh
today.
my gosh, really?
Yeah. Tell
Holy
them
cow.
thank you on the video. Please.
Oh my god, okay, so thank you to whoever sent this coffee. I don't know if you can see that. Hello. That is so sweet of you. We had a message from somebody who was taking this class and they were so appreciative. They're like, I'm going to send you coffee. And that is actually like the best thing you can send right now because we are very low on coffee and we love coffee and it powers us. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much to our amazing followers. I just want to give a shout out to the neighbor I ran into on the bike path today. Gio and I were resting on the bench and this family, you know, bikes past us on their little bikes and there's little kids and this, I say hello and this woman's like, hi, I love your lettering class. Thank you for doing that. And it just made my day. I was like, this is amazing. It's just such a small world we live in. And if you're watching right now, friendly neighbor on the bicycle, thank you so much. You really made my day. And I also want to say thank you to the people who have sent in some donations on Venmo and PayPal for this class. We are offering it for free. We're not asking for any money in exchange for this. We are just kind of sitting here anyway, so we might as well hang out with you guys and draw with you. But if you guys feel so moved, we do have a Venmo, we do have a PayPal if you guys want to, if you have extra income and you're like, yeah, I just want to throw a couple of bucks, that would be amazing. To be a little bit real right now, our income is kind of turned off basically because we don't have our store and our wholesale orders, nobody's placing wholesale orders now. So we're kind of sitting at home trying to figure it out. Donations and coffee and like high fives on the bike, or like not high fives, I shouldn't say that, or like 6 foot social distance high fives make our day. So thank you, all of you kind people who are doing that. That's really it's really filling our bucket, I should say, as our toddler would say. You fill my bucket. All right, so we're gonna do a lowercase c, and we're gonna start from the baseline because you typically would have a letter coming before it. So we're gonna start down here. Oops, that's terrible. C's, lowercase c's are actually one of the trickier letters to draw because you are coming from another letter. So what I would do if I was in a situation where I have a letter and I'm coming and I'm drawing a lowercase c is I would draw this little wave shape and then I stop. I pick up my pen. Hi, Frankie. And then I would start with my teardrop. I would follow this back down and then come back. Draw my my contrast there. But just so you could sort of see this in use, let me, here's letter A. You see how I kind of pick up and fill that back in? I'm gonna do that one more time so you guys can kind of see how I do it. So A, I'm gonna pick up my pen, draw my terminal, and continue. And the reason I do that is because I find that if I try drawing doing this, well, I guess that doesn't look too bad, but it often gets really junkily up here. It gets like a really just thick and gunky, and I don't really like the way that looks. So maybe you're really good at retracing your lettering steps, but even if you do something like this, okay, so this A is really, really messy, and you see how this kind of came into that stroke there. It's really easy to hide. All you just do is this, and it looks very consistent. It looks like that letter is attached. You don't know how far that stroke has come into that C, but it is, it looks like it's meant to be. So, letter C's, yeah, try practicing your letter C with a lowercase a in front of it, and practice like jumping into that letter C as much as possible, because it is a little tricky. It's going to take a little bit of practice. Don't forget your little teardrop terminal there. That is always very helpful. But yesterday, I remember talking about these terminals here and how different they can be, and I felt a little unprepared yesterday, but I want to go back and I didn't look at my notes, but I was thinking about it when I was trying to get Frankie down the first time for a nap. And there's a couple of different ways that your letter should end depending on what letter is coming after it. So if you have a lowercase c and you have an E after it, you're going to kind of come up to here. So this is like an E, or actually I'm just going to make that lowercase e, or an F. Let me see what else, or an H, or a B. you are going to come up all the way almost to the X height, the mean line, because that next letter that's going to come out, your E is going to jump out like that, or your C is going to, I'll make my terminal a little bigger, or it's going to pump out for your lowercase f, or your C is going to jump out for your lowercase h. So you see how it's important that you need to bring this C all the way up to here, because you really just kind of push it out. Let me show that a little bit. So basically that next stroke kind of comes out like that. I'm gonna finish up these little C's here. And the F.
Preview letters.
Yeah, you can preview. Yeah, you can see you can really see the construction of these strokes here. You can see how this line kind of jumps out here on the lowercase h very very clearly. In the same way that you would have a B. You can really see, behind what is normally covered up by. Hey, that's really just embarrassing. This is embarrassing. How do we do this? There we go. You can really see how those letter forms are constructed. So that is a C that leads into an E, F, H, or B. If you have a C, and this goes for basically all letters, if this was an A or for many letters except, a B that kind of ends off here instead of starting there. You can see those connection points have different starting points. But for C, things like C's and things like A's where your starting point is here, things like I's where your starting point is here. So a C that would go into like a lowercase I, for example. You draw your C. It's kind of the most typical, right? So you just have your C, and then your I would basically come down. Oops, go all the way to the top there. And so your C, the end of your terminal is kind of somewhere around there. So this is for things like, let me see, A, B, C, well, E, D, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Oh, K would be another one over here. J, K, L. Oh no, L would be over here too. L. Let me erase this one. J, K, L, M, N, P, R, right? Yeah, R, S, T. Well, you got the idea. Dot, dot, dot. And then for letters that would go into let's say like a lowercase d, for example, you see how you have that sort of like wave shape to it? Instead of coming up and kind of coming up below it, you're sort of coming up and then going back on top, because what you're going to be, oh, hello. Let's hold this in this area here. So what you're going to be doing is your C, and then you're going to want to come up because your next letter is a D. And you want that to be very clean transition to almost the top of that rounded letter. So that is things for like the letter B, C, D, E, O, Q, those kinds of letters. Dot, dot, dot. And then let's see, what are the other ones? Oh, and then you just basically have a terminal. So if you just had this at the end of the word, a C at the end of the word, which I don't think a lot of words end in the letter C, but you get the idea. If your letter that you're drawing a script lowercase letter that you're just going to end at the end of your word, you don't really need to be too concerned about how that ends, unless you want to do some kind of decorative filigree, in which case I would recommend doing something that has like a little bit of a point here, so it really shows that this C has been completed. That's the end. This is the end of this letter, and anything else is just purely decorative. Because if you do something like, well, I guess you could do something like that, but this could really, I don't know, it just looks a little unfinished here. You just kind of wish it just sort of came out and then out a little bit. That's just my personal preference. Again, legibility is key, so you just want to make sure that no matter what you're doing, no matter how much fun you're having, you want to make sure that that is legible. It's okay. Is it my turn to hold the baby?
Yeah, I need you to.
Okay, so
Let me tell you what questions people have.
Oh yeah, Morgan's back, so she's gonna read some questions here. Hello, sweetie pie.
Oh, hi. Okay. So.
Okay, don't touch. Frankie, do you see this coffee? Look how nice that is.
Okay. If anyone has questions, will you throw them in there now? Someone says, what kind of stylus do you use with your iPad? Is it an Apple Pencil?
Oh yeah, this is an Apple Pencil. It doesn't have the little part on the end, and I've lost the charger, but I've realized I can just put it in the iPad. It's kind of ridiculous because you think about all the nice design that Apple has, and then you like stick this thing in the end, and then you can't like move it around because you'll break it off. But I use the Apple Pencil, and it works fine. It's okay.
Okay.
The thing that I like about the Cintiq tablet compared to the iPad, that iPad's really like smooth, so it doesn't necessarily feel as like paper-like as the Cintiq. The Cintiq has a little bit more of a grit to the texture, and I like that better. So the Apple Pencil's fine with the iPad, but I do prefer the Cintiq over that. Right, Frankie? Hello.
Does anybody else have other questions about the letter C?
No, sweeties. Again, we have our booklet available for download on our website. So if you want to download the class as a PDF, you can do that. We have free downloads for the lined paper. We have free downloads of the We Will Always Figure It Out iPhone screen, and also you can download it as a print. We are taking pre-orders of a letterpress print like that because we have a print that says it's going to be okay, which I also made for Morgan when things were rough. These are the ways that I communicate my love for her. I just make her prints. So that's all available on our website, so check it out. And again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. We will be here again tomorrow, 2 p.m. Colorado time, so tune in. And thank you again for spending your afternoon with me. If you want to tag your post, #lettering with Ladyfingers, we will do our best to repost it and offer our adoring words to your creations. Thanks for being patient with us as we manage 3 small children and try to keep our business afloat at the same time.
Shane, we just talked about what software. It's hand-drawn type, but go back and listen to the video. It'll be in stories in a little bit, and you can hear what kind of tools we used to draw.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Be well.
Bye.